Hello and welcome, mourners, to the Dirge of Mourning. I am your host, Andrew, alongside Terry. This is part one of AI in Funeral Doom. Fake art, AI art, or real art?
Well, I know what I think, but you go ahead.
So the first image that we're gonna have a look at here is some images that I made via AI. As we now look at this AI art that is both on the screen for the audience here, one of the first things that immediately comes to my eye, knowing that it's absolute fakery, is the trees. They are not as realistic as an actual tree would be. You just need to look at the actual trunk to realize that it's superimposed. The actual leaves of the trees are very washed out, very sort of non-existent almost.
Yeah, like blurry.
Now, granted, when I did type in for what I wanted this image to look like, I wanted to have a fog-like setting. Instead, I get washed out rather than fog.
Yes, I agree. I think you're right. Now, there's something that comes to my eyes immediately as being quote-unquote wrong.
Yeah.
So, you normally would not have, these headstones or mausoleums spaced the way they are. And then in the background, you got these group of them so close together and some of them so far apart. And then you've got, this pathway
that doesn't lead really to anywhere.
No, it doesn't. And also, you would not have this bigger headstone that close to a pathway and a tree. You would have it would be landscaped better.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So AI doesn't know how to do good landscaping.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. We've now got an image here of one that I tried to get it to have a sort of rainy atmosphere. It looks like I'm looking at it through a, window.
Right. It doesn't look natural. So I would immediately say all the raindrops look identical. And if you look at those first foreground, the three headstones are identical.
They're the exact same ones.
Yes. It looks very strange. I will say I kind of like the background a little bit with that mausoleum back there. But then once again, the way they did the leaves on the trees, you know what they look like? They look like weeping willows or with Spanish moss on them.
Right. And it doesn't give off that rain-soaked feeling like a natural tree would when you take a photograph of it. This, again, it just comes off as it doesn't understand what these textures are. It doesn't understand how to map it out correctly.
Oh, I absolutely hate this one.
I do too. This has got to be the most shittiest AI I've ever seen.
Yeah, it sure is.
Now, I know what people are automatically going to say. Oh, but there's better programs out there. No, there really isn't. They all look horrible. Now, granted, yes, I am using the most horrible style I can find, but that's simply because I want to compare them to an actual photograph. Which is what you will now see. These images of photographs are ones that I personally took.
Yeah, so we know they're real.
Yes. Now, as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, landscaping.
Yeah.
They're all spaced correctly.
Yes.
They're all done in a manner that makes sense.
The thing that comes to my eyes right away is you have gradations of color all in different areas of the example, the headstones here in the foreground all look different from each other with different colorings and textures. The building, different textures, different colorings, depth, a real depth to it. The tree looks natural back there. And even these little flowers down in the front, they look natural because some of them are falling over and limp and others are standing up, and that's how it would be.
Right, like you said, there's actual texture, there's lights and darks in their compositions. You could tell the aging on these things. The flowers, like you said, they've got a natural life to them. The building here, you could see how old it is. You could see the dimensions in the building. It's not just this flat thing that's representational.
Right.
So when you compare what an actual cemetery should look like compared to what AI tried to create, which you would think a cemetery would be quite an easy thing to generate. It's not that complicated. Just stick a bunch of headstones next to each other. But apparently it can't really get that down to the way that we humans actually do it. It still doesn't have that life.
Right.
And plus, there's no artistic integrity to it. The next one, I took on a slightly foggy day. You could see what fog is actually supposed to look like.
Right. And another thing I want to point out is in real photos, there are imperfections in, like, the grass. Look at this little white fence back here. Kind of part of it's kind of leaning over. Those are things that happen in natural life.
You don't see any of that in the AI stuff. It tries to make everything look perfect.
Right.
Whereas, again, as we go through these, not an ounce of perfection is there because this is all man-made.
I mean, it's reality. So, I mean, you're going to find, like streaking of age on the headstones. You're going to find, there's probably, if you look closely, bird poop on them.
Oh, of course there is. Lots of bird poop.
Yeah. There's little holes all over the grounds.
Yeah. Again, when AI generates a, concept like this, it doesn't understand those imperfections. That, nature will take over.
Yeah.
You will have, the concepts of people walking on the grass. Their indentations.
Until it is assimilated in such a way that people put that in there. But that's a human touch if people put that in there. That's not AI.
Right.
Okay, so when you were talking about the trees, if you look at these trees, which are very far in the background, you do still see the limbs, twigs, and leaves, even though they're in the fog. They're not just blurred like somebody took a chalk and blurred them in, or a step and just blurred them in. They're actually individualized.
You could still make out what it actually is, rather than having to go, oh, I think I know what that's supposed to be.
Plus, the trees do not all look identical. They look different one from another in a little way,
Exactly. Again, trees don't grow the same way.
Right.
They form to their own natural elements. Just in the same way that all the headstones sit. They all go towards, how the ground is set. But you'll never see an actual headstone sit straight. There's always a slight slant to it because it weighs so much it indents the ground.
Right, the ground settles and does stuff to them, right.
Exactly. Now that we've seen both what AI can do with, its limitations, I guess, we're now going to look at how it compares to actual Funeral Doom album covers. The first album that we're going to have a quick look at here is Helllight.
Great band.
Absolutely. And obviously we have a picture here that has been digitally manipulated.
Yes.
But that wasn't to fool us into thinking it's a real image.
No.
Whereas that's the whole point in AI, is to make you believe that it's a real image that someone has actually taken or made.
Yeah.
We can see the manipulation here of, the actual human being in the forefront here, that's an actual person. Their photo was taken.
Right.
And it has been photoshopped into, a digital art technique where we've got these shadow figures in the fog that actually looks like fog.
Right. It does.
Doesn't take away or discourage my eyes from going, oh, I wonder what the fuck that is.
Right.
I know what the effect is. Because the artist behind this understood how to use their tools correctly.
Exactly. And the way the trees look, and also the way they're positioned on the album, they're actually, and this is an artistic element that artists would use, it's framing the center of the image. So you have them on both sides. It sort of makes a frame for that.
Yeah. There is a more realistic approach to this style.
Yes.
Because someone actually had to sit there and understand composition, reality, and how to get across what, the visual representation of what this music is. Rather than having a computer sit there and go, well, I think this is what you guys kind of like, right?
Yeah. This is so beautiful. I can't stand it.
And again, it's just an actual photograph
Yeah.
with a filter.
Right. To make it look old and those ambery colors is beautiful. Just beautiful.
You can actually find this particular carving in a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
So we know someone had to actually go out physically to take this picture.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, they manipulated it in a way to make it look like an old photograph.
I love it.
It is absolutely beautiful. It really is.
This is perfect. This one's a little different.
It is a little different. But, again, we've seen techniques similar to this.
Yes.
An actual digital image that someone had to actually create. They didn't type it into a computer to generate this. This was all done by, things like Photoshop, digital editing, even most likely bits of hand-drawn elements as well.
Yeah, I actually believe there are hand-drawn or painted elements to this, actually.
I think there is.
I am actually not exactly sure, but the entire thing might be a painting. It could be. I'm not sure.
I do believe it was mostly done digitally, i.e. Photoshop.
Okay.
But, again, all of these elements that this person has brought together
right.
didn't just automatically appear due to computer-generated bullshit.
No. This is creative and representational of what they want to be portraying for this album.
Each element is placed specifically to look as natural as humanly possible. Because again, a human put this together.
Right. I don't believe AI would come up with anything this creative with, like...
I don't think so either. This is why, again, you need that human element to have all of these components make sense.
Oh, I agree completely.
With that said, until next time, mourners, remember, every day is a funeral.